wine for gatherings and celebrations all month long. More at specs.com. Specs, the fun starts here.
Gulf Freeway headed south, Cullen in front of U of H. A couple of left lanes blocked off with a crash, and that's backing you up into town. Also, over on the North Freeways, outbound exit to Tidwell, and that service road remains shut down. Hazmat spill cleanup with the 18-wheeler car carrier that caught fire about 4 this morning. Stay on the main lanes. That'll get you around that. Sunshine, upper 70s for the high. 55-ish for the low tonight. Clear skies, mid-70s. Gorgeous for the weekend. Chance of rain kicking in Tuesday with a 50% chance. We're sitting at 50 right now. Winds out of the west at 12 miles an hour. Humidity nice, 59%. KUHF Houston News 88.7. A service of the University of Houston. Houston Matters starts right now. Don't go anywhere. 9 o'clock.
As the vouchers window is now open, new issues are emerging surrounding education in Texas. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, Houston Public Media's education reporter Bianca Seward joins us to walk us through it all.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, how digital mapping is increasingly being used to identify trends and provide transparency and guidance across Greater Houston. Then, from an emerging highway sinkhole to culinary gluttony at the ballpark to getting stuck inside a car wash, this week's non-expert panel weighs in on intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Plus, we preview Saturday's Apollo Chamber Players concert, the latest in a series leading up to America's 250th birthday. We'll start with the news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. A lawyer for the family of a 5-year-old boy in Minnesota says the federal government is seeking to deport them, according to Minnesota Public Radio. Last weekend, a federal judge forced immigration officials to free 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos and his father from an ICE detention center in Texas. The family's lawyer says a new hearing is scheduled for today, and the lawyer says the family is legally in the U.S. and has claimed asylum. A federal judge in Boston has blocked a data-sharing agreement between the Internal Revenue Service and federal immigration officials. NPR's Jude Joffe-Block reports this is the second time a federal judge has ruled against efforts to use IRS data to find and deport people.
Last August, the IRS shared the addresses of 47,000 non-citizens with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. But a federal judge in D.C. found last year that data exchange was unlawful. Now a second federal judge, this one in Boston, has blocked ICE and the Department of Homeland Security from inspecting or using that data and has paused the data sharing agreement while the case goes forward. The judge cited taxpayer privacy laws and also raised concerns about immigration agents misidentifying people and wrongfully arresting them at their homes. A DHS spokesperson told NPR the agency disagreed with the ruling and said the government is, quote, sharing information across the federal government to solve problems. Jude Joffe-Block, NPR News.
Indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran have concluded in Oman. Iran's foreign minister says these were a, quote, good start. It's not clear when they might resume. The Trump administration is pressing Iran over its nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and support for militants in the Mideast. President Trump is also deploying U.S. military strength in the region. President Trump will travel to Florida today. He's scheduled to meet the new president of Honduras there tomorrow. Trump supported conservative candidate Nasri Asfura in last year's Honduran presidential election. Asfura won by less than 1% of the vote. Stocks opened higher this morning after a big sell-off yesterday. NPR Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrials are up 760 points.
Investors who were skeptical about all the money Google's parent company is spending on artificial intelligence have similar questions about the payoff from Amazon's big AI investment. The online retailer and cloud computing giant says it plans to spend $200 billion on capital investments this year. Amazon shares opened lower. The price of Bitcoin has rebounded somewhat after a steep drop on Thursday. At one point, the volatile cryptocurrency had lost more than half its value from its record high last October. Toyota is making what it calls a gear shift, promoting its chief financial officer to CEO in April. Toyota's global sales were up last year, but U.S. tariffs put a big dent in the company's profits. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
You're listening to NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR be the model for high-quality journalism in the 21st century. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Developing story this hour, we're learning that Lone Star College's University Park campus has canceled class today as a precaution because of a bomb threat. The school posted on its website to await further instructions and that it was not a drill. It's unclear what prompted the threat, and law enforcement did clear campus this morning, which is located off the Tomball Parkway. We'll keep you in the loop on any developments there, but no class today at Lone Star College University Park. Harris County officials are discussing a plan to convert a floor of the county jail into a medical wing. News 88.7 Sarah Gruno reports.
Representatives of the Harris County Sheriff's Office talked about the plan at the Texas Commission on Jail Standards meeting in Austin on Thursday. Assistant Chief Philip Bosquez said that it would be the first medical division in the jail's history.
We already exceed the community standard for healthcare, and so we always just want to keep going above whatever the minimum standard is. I feel that we do that.
Discussions between the Sheriff's Office and Harris Health on the new medical division is in the early stages and likely wouldn't come to fruition for several months. The Sheriff's Office also assigned 10 officers to act as medical officers to make sure that inmates are transported to medical appointments on time. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
The parents of a girl who attended Camp Mystic and was never found after the tragic floods on July 4th last year in the Hill Country has filed a lawsuit. They are seeking $1 million in damages. Seal Stewart was never found during the rescue and recovery efforts. The flood killed 135 people, 27 of which were campers and counselors at Camp Mystic. The lawsuit targets the camp and several members of the Eastland family which ran the camp. It outlines accusations that the camp was unprepared and provided wrong guidance to campers and counselors that lost their lives. This is the 5th lawsuit that's been filed against Camp Mystic. It is currently 55 degrees here on the UH campus. Nice day and nice weekend are ahead, a high of 77 this afternoon. I'm Matt Harab, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Thanks for joining us here on News 88.7 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, the rise of data mapping, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and a new work with a lot to say about American history performed this weekend by the Apollo Chamber Players. First, though, a follow-up to a discussion we had earlier this week. Texas families are now able to apply for those Texas Education Freedom Accounts, school vouchers, essentially, which will use public dollars to help pay for private school tuition and other educational costs. But as the application window opened this week, many questions remained about accountability measures for schools participating in the program, especially for families with students with disabilities. News 88.7's Bianca Seward's been tracking down some of those answers, as well as looking into how state leaders are responding to student walkouts protesting ICE actions. She's here to tell us all about all of that. Hi, Bianca.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for having me.
You joined us earlier in the week on Tuesday to preview the beginning of this voucher application window. So let's start there. Now that it has begun, how many applications have been submitted? How has the process gone so far for those applicants?
Yeah, they had opening day on Thursday for families to apply to the program, and the Comptroller's Office reported a huge day, tens of thousands, more than 40,000 students applied for the voucher program. And that's about 80% of those students intend to use those vouchers at private schools. About 20% of those students are hoping to use those funds for homeschooling needs. We learned a little bit more about the demographics. So far, a third of the families that have applied make less than $66,000. That's those lower income tiers. And nearly 40% of the families applied to that range of under $165,000. So we're learning a little bit about what kind of families reached out to the program. It's early on. The office expects that number to climb to well over 200,000. So we're in the early stages. And we haven't heard yet too much about any hiccups or glitches. Many reported online on social media that the process was easy and fast. But I'll ask now if there are listeners that have applied and want to share their experience. We are all ears.
When we spoke on Tuesday, there were open questions about the program's ability to adequately serve students with special needs, and you have since learned a little bit more about that. What do parents with kids with special needs need to know about this program?
Yeah, after we last spoke, I was able to sit in on a webinar with people from the comptroller's office that help oversee the program. And the goal of the chat was to review details for the program, but also address questions about how students with special needs might be serviced. The heart of the concern for many on that call is that private schools are not obligated in the same way public schools are to accommodate special education needs. So there were several questions about how to ensure an IEP, that's an individualized education program, would be honored in the private school if they took their voucher funds to a private school. One thing that I found very interesting, and it's the first time that I'd heard this, is Mark Domel, senior legal counsel in the comptroller's office, said, if there is a situation where you believe you're not getting services that have been paid for, contact the comptroller's office and we'll investigate and take corrective action. Now, he didn't spell out what that legal recourse would be to those private schools, but that's still a pretty big commitment. Private schools operate with significant autonomy, so it's interesting to hear the comptroller's office say they would be looking into how the private schools specifically were using these voucher funds. I asked if there's a system in place to monitor the schools and to ensure they were in compliance, and I was told they would really address these concerns more on a case-by-case basis. Travis Pillow, a spokesperson for the voucher program, added that there are some audit requirements for the private schools to remain in the program, but it wasn't clear how often they'd be audited or under what degree and for what qualifications.
There are still questions about how this program will impact the Texas education system as a whole, public education as well. I understand there's a new organization out there that's trying to track that. What more can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a group that's been established for a little bit over 2 years, I think now. Our Schools, Our Democracy. And they launched an initiative this week on Monday called Texas Center for Voucher Transparency. And it's a small group, roughly 3 staff members, that aim to fill the information gap. I spoke with their executive director, Carrie Griffith, who said they'll conduct surveys, scrutinize private school applications for schools that are receiving these vouchers, and they'll have an online portal where families can report concerns in real time. They hope to analyze those concerns and kind of track trends or recurring things that are happening in the program. She shared with me that the comptroller's office isn't necessarily obligated to send a report about how the program is working for a few years. So they hope to kind of fill that void and tell people in real time what they're finding about how the voucher program is working.
All right, let's switch gears to another issue that's emerging in education. We're seeing instances of students walking out of classes to protest the recent killings by federal immigration officers and other aggressive ICE enforcement actions, including in the greater Houston area. This week, Governor Abbott called for, I'm going to read the quote here, stripping the funding of schools that abandon their duty to teach our kids the curriculum required by law. At the same time, the TEA warned school districts that they could be taken over by the state if they help facilitate these walkouts. All right. So first of all, have we seen students protesting here in the Houston area?
Yeah, we've seen several Houston area schools participate in these walkouts. That includes Elkins High School in Missouri City, Conroe High School, and on Tuesday, students gathered outside of Sam Houston Math, Science, and Technology Center to protest ICE and call for the release of their classmate. That's 18-year-old senior Mauro Enriquez, who was detained in December, and he's been in a Montgomery processing center for more than 50 days.
All right. So that school had a very specific protest about a particular case, one of their fellow students. What are you hearing about why some of these other students at other schools are engaging?
I spoke to several students on Tuesday at the rally outside of Sam Houston, and one of them told me they didn't know what else to do, didn't know how else to be heard. I spoke to other students that say they didn't like the way ICE was operating in Houston or across the country. And when it hit their school personally, as you just said, with the detention of their classmate, they couldn't understand it. They want their classmate, their friend, Mauro Enriquez, back at school, and they felt this was the best way to get their voice heard.
What are district officials saying about these kinds of protests?
I reached out to Houston ISD and I haven't quite yet heard back, but neighboring districts like Conroe, Fort Bend, and Cypress Fairbanks have said that they respect a student's right to demonstrate, but not during school hours or when it disrupts class instruction.
And what does this new guidance issued by TEA exactly require of these administrators?
Yeah, the new guidance from the TEA outlines some pretty serious consequences if they're found to have facilitated walkouts. This includes losing attendance-based funding if the teachers and districts are not marking students properly absent when they walk out, revoking a teacher's license if they're found to have helped or encouraged walkouts, and the TEA says a state takeover of the district entirely is also on the table. However, the TEA has not really rolled out great guidance as to how teachers and districts should stop these students from walking out.
All right, one more thing about the TEA. Commissioner Mike Morath's appointed a new inspector general who I guess is designated to investigate teachers. About what and why?
Yeah, the TAA announced this week that Levi Fuller would be the new Inspector General for Educator Misconduct. Fuller is the former Chief of Staff to State Representative Andy Hopper. And the division of the agency, the office that investigates misconduct claims, has really grown this year. In September, the TAA was flooded with complaints of teachers speaking negatively about conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, and that was either online or in the classroom. And now the office will also handle complaints or concerns of teachers who encourage student walkouts protesting ICE. So they've got a lot on their plate.
Bianca Seward covers education for Houston Public Media. Bianca, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, how digital mapping tools are increasingly being used to reveal trends across Greater Houston. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
Support for Houston Public Media.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
We get support from members like you, and Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is made possible in part by Ellen Benninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer, and with gifts from listeners like you. Sunshine today, mid-70s for the high 55 right now here at News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Greater Houston is, well, let's face it, massive, layered, and much about this sprawling metro of ours is constantly in flux, which may make emerging patterns, changing attitudes, and other important developments hard to pick up on. Enter digital mapping. Increasingly, data plotted on maps is being used to reveal certain patterns, and some are immensely practical. Think back to Hurricane Beryl, when during extended power outages and CenterPoint Energy's outage tracker was down, Houstonians started using Whataburger's location map to figure out roughly which parts of town had power and which didn't. Then there's the famed Houston Arrow, that image and plotted digital maps that seems to come up in category after category, showing a clear geographic distinction between haves and have-nots in Greater Houston. Here to talk about digital maps, how they're designed and why and what they reveal are Evan O'Neill, a data communicator and creator of the Third Place Index, and Madeleine Pelzel, an urban planner and BikeHouston board member and creator of the Houston Bike Guide. Welcome, both of you, to Houston Matters.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Craig. Happy to be back.
Thank you very much.
Let me start with you, Evan, and tell us what the Third Place Index is.
So a Third Place Index is a data framework to look at access to kind of places that facilitate social connection and community building, otherwise known as third places.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so third places was a term coined by Ray Oldenburg in his book, The Great Good Place. So your first place is your home, your second place is work, and then third place is the place where you feel belonging, place where you feel comfortable.
Okay, so places we go to kind of connect with other people.
Yeah, exactly. So, for me, I would say like Antidote Coffee is one. Like, a welcoming place that you can kind of become a regular, you see other people. It's, you're kind of on a socially equal playing field.
Bars, clubs, venues, events.
Yeah.
Activities, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Anywhere where a 90s sitcom took place. Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it. You joined us last year to talk about the Houston Arrow.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, can you explain what it is and where it is?
So the Houston Arrow is, essentially Memorial, Montrose Heights down to the medical center. So it is a pattern when you map any socioeconomic phenomena in the city. If you do enough of these maps, you start to notice this pattern. And it is, yeah, I mean, like you said, it is kind of a boundary shape of haves and have-nots, of the outcomes that we want and the outcomes that we don't want. And it's in every city, but in Houston, it is kind of a brandable, very recognizable shape of an arrow.
I suspect you know my next question then. Does the third place index and what you've been plotting, does it seem to reflect the Houston arrow?
Some parts of it do. So like park space really reflects the Houston arrow. But a lot of it really breaks the pattern, which is something I find really interesting about the third place index.
Yeah, can you give an example or two?
Yeah, so Northeast Harris County is a place that, we see a lot of the outcomes that we don't want. But in the third place index, it's very dense, actually. A lot of that has to do with places of worship.
So when you look at data maps, whether you've created them or somebody else has, and you see some patterns and you see some things that defy some patterns, what does it tell you about access in Greater Houston that maybe you wouldn't know otherwise?
Access to third places specifically?
Access to anything, really.
Yeah, it says that we are very good at providing access to things. We know how to do it. It's just not equitably distributed.
Okay. Let me turn to Madeleine now. What is the Houston Bike Guide?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on this morning. The Houston Bike Guide was really developed to make it legible where there don't exist lines on the ground maybe for biking, but it makes it more possible for people to bike far and wide across Houston, even though we lack a lot of the infrastructure that would make it as safe as it could possibly be. It was developed to make it easier for folks, parents, kids, really everyone to know where you can bike in Houston without being on what we call high stress streets, or streets that have fast moving traffic that's dangerous for people biking when there isn't separated bike infrastructure.
And what would you say you've learned about Greater Houston that maybe you didn't know once you got a good hard look at this map in its completed form?
Yeah, the thing that it really comes to me every time I look at it is just amazement and surprise. I think everyone who hasn't taken a look will be surprised at just how many neighborhoods and regions of our overall Greater Houston region are bikeable. The Houston Bike Guide includes not just the city of Houston, but we have areas mapped all the way down to Clear Lake. I have someone I'm working with in Galveston to start getting some lines down there, as well as, all the way out past Katy and far north. So it just takes a little bit of interrogation as to how you can navigate around some of our most dangerous streets. Everyone kind of has these streets in their neighborhoods that you kind of don't walk past when you're going on a walk because it's hard to cross. And the Houston Bike Guide helps you get across those really difficult and hectic, busy streets safely, as safe as possible with the current infrastructure. It's not a replacement for good infrastructure, but it does help you navigate what we have today. Did it reveal to you any locations where, man, there isn't a really good way to get around one of these really busy streets? At some point, you do have to, on your bicycle, turn onto an intersection you wish you hadn't. Yeah, so what we've really tried to do is use this term useful sidewalk, where there are some moments where to get around an area without going way out of your way, you might need to get on a sidewalk that may or may not be very good, but or sometimes when you're crossing a rail track, it's just a path of dirt, or in other parts of town, there's many parts of town where it might just be some dirt, but it is how you get across that intersection. And the Houston Bike Guide helps point that out. It would be an easy win for some folks to make those sidewalks a little bit better. Okay, so let me throw this out then to both of you to talk a little bit. Maybe Evan, you could start about the process of gathering and verifying data that goes into a digital map like you create.
Yeah, for anything that's not a publicly released data source, I think, Houston Bike Guide is especially a great example. It takes a lot of community connection to, understand the context, the idea of what, in that example, like the idea of what a safe street is to bike on is something that takes a lot of judgment call to. And I think same for third place also. We have this classical definition of a third place, but that was from the 1980s and society's changed a lot. So kind of having cultural context and just being able to make a judgment call and defend that. I think is a big part of it. So, Madeleine, I imagine you crowdsource a lot of this, at least at first. And then how do you go about verifying, okay, Mr. Johnson says that this is a safe place to bike.
maybe somebody should go down there and check and see if that's just because Mr. Johnson is much more confident than other people are.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the biggest issues when people try to map infrastructure or routes that people might want to bike on. People have very different risk tolerance and thresholds. And so with the Houston Bike Guide, we don't claim that any given street is particularly, going to always keep you safe. There's always a risk when you're biking around traffic. And so we coined the term bikeable. It's the best available route, and that is going to vary across the city. Not every bikeable street has the same level of stress. And again, like you're saying, we definitely have to go out and scope out people's recommendations for sure, and kind of decide if it's something that we would recommend to someone who might be exploring that part of town for the first time. And that is one of the hardest things when the infrastructure is so widely varied as to what feels safe and what actually keeps you safe from traffic. Paint is not something that keeps you safe. It might designate a line on the road, but it will absolutely not keep you and a car apart. And so the Houston Bike Guide really, and all the folks that have worked on it with me, I've worked with dozens and dozens of people in all the pockets of the city, just really trying to understand how they get through and around some of these, really difficult parts of town. I think specifically out past the Texas Medical Center and NRG area, it gets really difficult to get in and around those neighborhoods because they're all siloed off and the options are super limited. And you can see some areas of the Houston Bike Guide that have very patchy, what I would call coverage. And that's not because we've forgotten about them. That's because there truly aren't good options.
Evan, I think back to the example I cited earlier of the Whataburger location map as an alternative when folks needed to know roughly what part of town had power and what didn't. They'd look up on the map, this is during Beryl, and if the location of a particular Whataburger was lit up, it told them, oh, okay, they're open, so they must have power, therefore the a neighborhood around them probably has power. And then other areas where they saw they were grayed out, they didn't have power. So there was a certain basic yes or no answer to that particular map. With a lot of these digital maps, I think part of it is understanding the definition of whatever it is that you're mapping. Like you talk about, a third place or safe bike lane. It's the programmer or whoever's in charge of that map making their definition, and then whoever's using it might have a slightly different definition. So how much can you articulate that on the map itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of in the design process. You always want to know what people are going to be able to get out of the map. And I mean, what action does it take? What pattern does this help to unsurface? Whereas like the Whataburger map, that, it doesn't accomplish the goal that the map set out to, but it does surface a pattern.
I guess it probably also served the purpose that they wanted to, but anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first meal after power went back on.
There you go. Let's take a call. We have Mike on the line from Spring Branch. Mike, what's your question or comment?
Well, I just kind of don't think it's safe to ride bikes in a lot of circumstances where they claim to have a bike lane at all. I don't think it's a good idea to have a 3-foot wide lane next to 45-mile-an-hour speed limit that has big trucks driving on it and road construction. And just to encourage people that that's a legitimate bike lane is asking for accidents to happen.
Okay, thanks for the call and for the comment. So, Madeleine, how do you take that into consideration as you plot something on a digital map that is the caller's example? Maybe his definition is vastly different from yours.
Yeah, I would say that the Houston Bike Guide does not designate a lot of the streets that might have those type of little gutter, we call them a gutter painted lane. We do not designate those streets as bikeable. Often we've been trying to create routes around those. And those are the types of infrastructure that you might see on a map of what is currently on the ground, because that is considered a bike lane by many people's standards. But as someone who's biking in Houston for over 10 years, I definitely do not want to be biking on that road you described. And hopefully the Houston Bike Guide helps you route around that. West Alabama is a good example. Google Maps will route you down West Alabama, just straight through Montrose, which is really dangerous. and not even the most dangerous of streets, but is a very dangerous street. But Hawthorne is right parallel. And if you didn't know about it, you might be on West Alabama, but Hawthorne is something, that doesn't have technically a bike facility, but it will keep you a lot safer. And so we're actually working right now with a group called Bike Streets to create a routing app to really help people navigate Houston by bike, using the work that has gone into the Houston Bike Guide and these safer routes, even when there is technically this bike infrastructure that we don't want people to be riding on. So spot on.
Well, let's go next to Alex in Sugar Land. Alex, what's your question or comment?
Hey, first, just wanted to say thank you for creating this awesome resource, the Houston Bike Guide. I'm a part of the largest skate group in Houston, the Space City Skaters, and we skate all over the city. And so I would love to partner with you possibly to see routes that you think would be skatable as well. We use quite a bit of the bike routes, and I agree with the last caller. Like, we don't want to be in the gutter lane as well. We take more space because our strides are a little bit wider than what a bike requires. So that's one thing. And the second thing I want to say is that our trail system is incredible. Like, I don't know if people are aware of all of the expansion that's happened in the A-Leaf area, but I would highly encourage people to use the trail system because a lot of times they run parallel to some of the major roads. West Park and like the Library Loop Trail is a perfect example. You could get almost to anywhere you want by using the trails rather than major roads. So always look for other trail routes as well.
All right. Thanks very much for the call and for the comment, Alex. And Madeleine, I don't know if you've contemplated, sometimes you start with a digital mapping project that's designed for one purpose. And as we were talking about with the Whataburger map as an outage detector, if we need it, maybe this could be something that could be expanded for inline skating and other purposes.
Definitely. I mean, skaters, runners, the map can be used for all types of purposes where you're not safe to be on a major street or a highway. And I think that, like the caller said, the trail network really is the backbone of that, of our city for so many people who like to walk, run, bike, skate, roll in any way. And it's definitely a huge part of the Houston Bike Guide and something that we hope to help make it easier for people to actually get to from their house without having to drive to the trail.
That's Madeleine Pelzel, an urban planner, BikeHouston board member and creator of the Houston Bike Guide. Evan O'Neill is a data communicator and creator of the Third Place Index. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just ahead, from an emerging highway sinkhole to culinary gluttony at the ballpark. This week's non-expert panel weighs in on intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
LLC, where former prosecutor Chantel Wood White represents individuals and businesses in federal and state criminal cases, white-collar matters, and internal investigations. Info available at cwwhitelaw.com.
And from St. Arnold Brewing Company, a place for corporate events on tap, meeting rooms, AV equipment, and full catering available. More at starnold.com.
A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Natalie Arceneaux, president of Arceneaux International Consulting, Lisa Falkenberg, senior columnist for the Houston Chronicle, and Charles Kuffner, who writes the Off the Cuff political blog. Natalie, Lisa, Charles, welcome to Houston Matters.
Howdy.
Thank you. Panel, it is Houstonians', well, let's face it, favorite pastime, complaining about traffic and road conditions. Well, Commuters on the east side of town had a new reason to complain this week: closure of the eastbound lanes along I-10 near Federal Lane due to an emerging sinkhole caused when a water line collapsed. As Houston Public Media's Adam Zuvanich reported this week, TxDOT crews worked overnight Wednesday into Thursday to cap the leak and fill the hole. In addition to the eastbound closures, one of the westbound lanes was restricted, leading to delays in an already heavy traffic area. A sinkhole emerges on Interstate 10 on the east side. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Natalie Arceneaux.
It's ugly. I can't even... I mean, I'm usually good about playing both sides. I can't even think of a good, unless it had water in it and you were ducks, then maybe it would be helpful. But if you're a driver, it's horrible and it's ugly. And I think it speaks to like the state of our infrastructure. And we were just talking about like where to live in Houston. And I was like, hey, I-10 is my spot. Like I'm on the I-10 corridor. I love it. And then like the sinkhole, I was like, well, it's on the east side of I-10. So I still love it, but it's not so great for those people. I think we need to spend a little bit more time investing in our infrastructure. Every so often, we get these increases for rain, the rain tax, the whatever tax, all the taxes. And yet our infrastructure still kind of remains what I would consider relatively unstable. It causes traffic issues and it causes damage to your vehicles that you're responsible for, even though you're not, the sole person responsible for the road that decided to assault your vehicle. And so I think we need to spend a little more time and energy and money on addressing our infrastructure issues.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly? Lisa Falkenberg.
I mean, it's ugly, and I have to ask, does Houston really need this? Like, did we not have enough? Like with the people darting off randomly across the highway, or the 18-wheelers, hitting bridges and knocking out old lady sitting in the middle of the road with a rifle. I mean, do we not have enough in Houston to keep us from getting from point A to point B? That now we got to have a sinkhole. Although I feel like I pass plenty of sinkholes, on Westheimer on a daily basis, but but to have it on the highway. I mean, I agree with Natalie. We've got a lot of old infrastructure, and this was a water main. I guess it was controlled by the city of Houston. I hope I didn't just mistake that. I think it was the city of Houston. I'll be hearing from the mayor on that. But the problems at the water plant that need to be addressed. These old lines need to be replaced. Every time I open, start my kid's bath and like a bunch of rust-colored water comes out. I'm like, okay, who knows what's going on underground with this water? So it's scary. I've seen it happen in other places, like swallow whole cars, and I guess it's a very good thing that no car or human was damaged in this event.
Yeah, it's one thing that we've got to dodge other drivers. We have to dodge things in the roads that land there that shouldn't be there, and then there's no road at all. Yeah, that's a problem. Good, bad, or ugly, Charles Kuffner.
I mean, obviously it's ugly. It's a sort of weird, demented reverse Frogger game to have a sinkhole suddenly appear in the road like that. And I have to say, I missed the story about the lady in the road with the rifle.
45. Look it up.
Oh my
Poor
God.
baby.
Yeah.
She was just out there. She was having a moment.
Yeah. I mean, my reaction to this, as much as anything, is that this is, another good argument for letting people work from home.
Yes.
Because, then you have fewer people that have to worry about sinkholes randomly appearing on the highway. If you don't have to take the highway, you don't have to worry about the sinkhole.
But then I wouldn't see all of you.
Well, we can make exceptions.
You can see us now. We're on YouTube.
You can turn on cameras.
That's true.
I mean,
my question though is like, we're supposed to be so flat. So where does the sinkhole go? Like, if Houston is such a flat landscape,
in the swamp, Natalie, in the swamp.
It goes down. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
panel, while you may already be salivating thinking about the deep-fried tasty goodness available next month at the rodeo, you'll have ample opportunity the rest of the spring and summer to gorge yourself on unholy culinary concoctions courtesy of the concession stands at Daikin Park. This week, the Houston Astros unveiled a number of new snacks going on sale at the ballpark next season. Among them, a barbecue pork burnt and boomin' onion. It's the ballpark take on Outback's bloomin' onion, I assume. So we're talking about a heaping helping of breaded and deep-fried onions with those pork burnt ends piled on top, along with queso blanco, more onions, the pickled red variety, and then barbecue sauce and a barbecue mayonnaise, or rather aioli, slathered all over it. If that is not to your liking, may I recommend the Crawford Dog Pizza? Technically a pizza, joining the mozzarella instead of pizza sauce. There's barbecue sauce, of course, along with bacon onion jam, yellow mustard, and lest we forget, hot dog slices. By comparison, the brisket donuts seem downright tame. It's basically breaded and deep-fried brisket in a donut-like shape served on top of macaroni and cheese. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. Why, when you can get a barbecue pork burnt and boomin' onion, a Crawford Dog Pizza, or brisket donuts? Is this good, bad, or ugly? Lisa.
Some people just want to die.
Oh, that is so dark.
Thus, it is ugly. It is it is bad. It is actually I was gagging. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
As I was reading, I was gagging, reading all this. And I just don't understand it. I mean, a hot dog, good old-fashioned hot dog with a bunch of mustard. Why is that not good enough? And I don't want that person breathing on me. Even if the person next to me has it and I don't, they still have to talk to me. Yeah. And that onion will be wafting over. And anyway, it's just this. I was telling Natalie, I don't go to the rodeo and get that crazy stuff. I go straight for the turkey leg. That's all I need, And it's indulgent and decadent enough.
And a low-carb option. So well played. Good, bad, or ugly, Charles?
I mean, I'll take the opposite tack and say it's good, even though I wouldn't eat those things. But I'm glad that someone has the opportunity, and I do hope there was a camera focused on Lisa as you were reading all this, because the looks on your face, Lisa, I have to say. I mean, look, there's only so much you can do in terms of good food and food that is good for you. At some point, what people want, or at least what some people want, again, I and clearly Lisa are not among them, what people want is something that they've never had before. And whatever else you can say about these things, you've probably not had them before. So, it's got that going for it. And, I like to see creativity express itself where it can, even if it's in the realm of weird foods that don't actually need to exist but do anyway for reasons we can't really articulate. So there you have it.
Well, you will have to find creative ways to get to the bathroom after eating.
That is correct.
Good, bad, or ugly, Natalie?
Oh my God, it is ugly, 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 ugly. I think, quite honestly, you all should just do a poll of side-by-side faces of my face and Lisa's face while you were just reading that, because my stomach just started to turn. I got the McGurgles just thinking about it. It's just not good. And look, I agree with Charles that you can eat whatever you want to eat. Don't let me stop you, right? That's great. Somebody put it out there for you. I would be more interested in the metrics of whether this stuff sells. We were talking about foods outside too, and I was just like, I don't have calories to spare. And since we don't get a calorie take back day, I am going to only choose the things that I know are really, really great. So it's less about, foods that are new and combined in weird, quirky ways than it is about, does it taste good? Is it really something that's satisfying to you, or are you just eating it because it exists? And that's the part that I'd struggle with. And to Lisa's earlier point, it's a lot of people who just want high cholesterol and clogged arteries. So,
Finally, panel, a Pennsylvania woman got a stack of gift cards from the Waynesboro Waterworks car wash this week. It's the business's way of apologizing for Felicia Sullivan's hours spent trapped inside the car wash. As UPI's Ben Hooper reported Wednesday, apparently a system malfunction caused the wash to shut off completely and the doors to close around Sullivan and her car. While stuck inside, she tried to use an emergency button only to find it did not work. She got out, she knocked on the doors, she called for help, but couldn't get anyone's attention, so she called the police. Officers responded with the car wash owner's help, extricating Sullivan and her car from the wash. Both were unharmed, though a little extra soapy. A woman and her car are trapped in a car wash for an hour. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Charles?
I just want to say, Craig, that I admire the algorithm that you and the good, bad, and ugly staff use to come up with the topics that we talk about week to week. I mean, sometimes it's important national news stories, sometimes it's local news, and sometimes it's a lady in Pennsylvania who got stuck in a car wash. So, I mean, I don't think you could prompt an AI to come up with that. So
No.
kudos to you.
It is a very human endeavor.
I don't know. I read this and my first thought was if that was me in there, and I'm not the most claustrophobic person in the world. I can handle a tight space. But my first thought, if I were in that situation, is I'm hungry. And my second thought is I need to go to the bathroom. And it wouldn't matter how recently I'd eaten or used the bathroom. Those would be my first two thoughts. I wouldn't be able to get them out of my head, and I do hope that it would occur to me to call 911 because otherwise I just don't want to think about how it would
You'd be
end.
thrown it into drive, and you'd be going right through that door.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or ugly, Natalie?
I think I can go good and ugly on this. So the introvert in me, despite all belief systems that I'm an extrovert, the introvert in me would take solace in this and would find great joy in being cut off from the rest of the world. So I would be thrilled sitting in a closed off. The flip side of that, though, is also my brain might initially be triggered to think if I'm in Final Destination.
Oh, no. Imagine the concoction of combinations of things that'll happen.
I'm like, the
inside
scrubber
that car
comes
wash.
and gets you,
Yeah.
and then I'm just like, it's, so.
But if you're going to go, might as well go clean and
Go
fresh.
clean and fresh.
That's right.
If only you'd been able to eat some Astros ballpark food first.
Blooming, whatever
the blooming onion.
Good, bad, or ugly, Lisa?
Well, it's ugly. It's good the way the woman responded. I mean, she wasn't even really mad. She was super, resourceful. She tried all the gadgets, pressing all the buttons, emergency, this and that, and couldn't get out. So she, called the police and they came. And but I hadn't thought about your response, Natalie. The problem is that it's still, apparently she still had internet in there, so people could still send you things. But if not, it could be, Mom, why didn't you? I was stuck in a car wash for an hour. It went on for 2 hours. I just had to sit and read a novel the whole time.
I mean, if she had internet, she could bring up TikTok and find a new way to become an influencer. Hi, fam. I'm here inside the car wash.
She did. She was TikToking. She put it on TikTok.
Of course
right?
she did.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
But no, as a kid, I always had a fear of those things, those drive-through things. And what? Car wash. Thank you, ma'am. Car wash. And so I would wash the brushes and how they were getting so close. But I think what happened was my mom was using a hand wash one time and she lost control of the rod and it went crazy, swishing through the air and knocked out the back window. And it was back in those days where you didn't wear seatbelts and you're in the back of the station wagon just playing around. And, it came at us and it was crazy. So anyway, I always was thinking, what if one of these mechanical things malfunctions like that and then we're all just stuck in here, we can't get out. So yeah, this poor woman, she dealt with it very, very well. I don't think I would have been so poised.
And we'll have to leave it there, just like they left that woman in that car wash. But my thanks to Natalie Arceneaux, president of Arceneaux International Consulting, Lisa Falkenberg, senior columnist for the Houston Chronicle, Charles Kuffner, writer of the Off the Cuff political blog. Natalie, Lisa, Charles, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
I got a dusty old pile of vinyl records sitting on my floor.
I'm Quinn Bishop, owner, Cactus Music. What we try to do at Cactus is create a third place scenario in that you're not at work, you're not at home. Where else do you see yourself if you have an hour to spend? And I think for music lovers who are engaged in what's happening with current music, we're really the destination for that. We hosted over 200 events, and we're the destination for you to see an intimate performance with a national, local, or regional act, and have an opportunity to meet them, get an autograph. And that's something that's really special. It's just been the heritage of our store going back to when it was the record ranch in the Heights, and we would have artists that perform on the Louisiana Hayride, such as Hank Sr. and country western stars of the day perform at the record store. It's really essentially the same thing now. Well, certainly you have people that are 35 to 60 that are buying records again, that it's really been a touchstone for them, that they've come back around to and reignited their love of records, and I like these things all along, this is great that they're back. But really the driving factor is the 17 to people that are maybe 25, 27 that are really driving the vinyl sale. I'm Quinn Bishop, and you're listening to Houston Matters.
Mike Tirico will host two of them.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Energy plans to Texans with home backup for outages and fixed energy rates. Eligibility details at basepowercompany.com/NPR.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, after a new episode of Party Politics at 8, enjoy an encore of Episode 5 of Ken Burns' documentary series, The American Revolution at 8:30. Tonight on TV 8.
When you are the great-great-great-grandson of abolitionist author and statesman Frederick Douglass and the great-great-grandson of educator and author Booker T. Washington, odds are pretty good you're going to have some things to say about American history. So it makes sense that Kenneth Morris Jr. would collaborate with composer Daniel Bernard Roumain on a work being performed this weekend by Houston's Apollo Chamber Players. It's called And Still We Cross.
And still we cross. Through my veins, and so does it purpose. Until we cross, I walk in their footsteps, we walk in their footsteps. Until we cross, their blood runs through my veins, and so does it purpose. Until we cross, I walk in their footsteps, we walk in their footsteps.
The hush before the crossing, the pulse of fear and hope, the rhythm of courage and motion, the heart beating silence.
A bit from the recording session of And Still We Cross by composer Daniel Bernard Roumain, or DBR, with words by Kenneth Morris Jr., which will appear on the Apollo Chamber Players' next album. Apollo's performing the work Saturday at the Match, and here to tell us more about it are Morris Roumain and Apollo's artistic director and violinist, Matthew Detrick. Good morning to you all.
Good morning. Good morning. Great to be here.
Daniel, let me start with you. Why did you want to collaborate with Ken on this piece?
Well, Ken is living history. I suppose we all are.
Yeah.
And how do those histories collide? Can they find message and meaning on a score page? Can they find message and meaning in the voices of singers, in the hands and bodies of world-class instrumentalists? And what does that mean for an audience right now, where division is everywhere, but not necessarily conversation or even collaboration?
Right. Ken, what more can you tell us about the words being sung in this work?
Well, you know, when you think about that connection that I have to history, it's a unique connection as the great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass and the great-great-grandson of Booker T. Washington. Is something I'm very proud of. And every summer, we do an Underground Railroad trip called Footsteps to Freedom for educators, mostly from California. And we travel from Kentucky, which was a slave state, across the Ohio River, into Ohio, which was a free state. And prior to the 1850 Fugitive Slave Law, you could escape from Kentucky to Ohio and you would be free. After the 1850 Fugitive Slave Law, you escaped from Kentucky to Ohio. You had to go all the way to Canada for freedom. So this idea of the Ohio River being that line that separates slavery to freedom. And so that was in my mind and thinking about how we would approach this piece. And then, history is not just about the past. It's about the present and it's about the future. And the more that we know where we come from, the better we can navigate the world in which we live and we know where we're headed. And so I wanted to make that historical connection to contemporary forms of slavery and thinking about Houston, Texas, and the Rio Grande. And so that became that present day line that separates slavery to freedom. And what would any parent do for their child if you're trying to get to the U.S. for better economic freedom, better education, better health care? And so that was the genesis of how this all came together.
Matthew, this is the third of 4 concerts that Apollo's presenting leading up to the 250th anniversary of American independence. It also comes on the centennial of Black History Month. How did all of that influence this particular concert?
Well, connecting communities and culture and creating cultural harmony is part of Apollo's vision. And telling the story of America, we wanted to do that in the fullest way possible. So this story we did declare with all the Houston Poet Laureates in October. We had an Enlightened concert in November that kind of looked at the wisdom of American Indian influence on the founding of America. And now I feel like this empowerment concert really is rooted in love. It's love of our ancestors and our families and history. It's love, a profound love of our country and wanting to make it better, even in this moment when that love is very hard to recognize. And then I also think, love of our fellow human beings across generations. So the intergenerational element to this is very important too.
Let me throw out to all of you, is it threading a bit of a needle to celebrate 250 years of American independence when, of course, many Americans were enslaved and were not independent at the founding of our nation, in a moment when there is so much political strife, as you already pointed out, and how much or how little you express patriotism even can be seen by many as a political statement in and of itself.
Well, for Frederick Douglass, he speaks to us today. He published 3 best-selling autobiographies. He was the publisher of the North Star newspaper, which was the leading abolitionist voice published out of Rochester, New York. And it was really the mouthpiece for his people, his brethren that were toiling away in chains. And when we think about the 250th anniversary of this country, and I and many historians consider Frederick Douglass a founding father of the Second Republic after the Civil War, and his words speak to us today, that's a good thing, but I also say, unfortunately, they speak to us because there's still so much work to be done, and we find ourselves in these very troubling times, and this country is as divided as it's been in a very long time. And the rhetoric that we hear from our leaders, the racist and xenophobic rhetoric and sexist rhetoric. And Frederick Douglass speaks to us, and people ask me all the time, what would Frederick Douglass say if he were here today? What would he do? And I don't think really any of us knows, but I'll say because his blood flows through my veins, which by that lyric is in the piece as well. That's beautiful. I will, just kind of step forward and say I think that he would be somewhat pleased that we have had some progress. We elected an African-American president. We had a vice president, woman of color. But I think he would be outraged that there's still so much work to be done, and many of the challenges that he faced, we're facing some of those same challenges. But, 250th anniversary of the country, who controls that narrative?
And I think we can do it through the arts, and Daniel's been doing this through his music his entire career. We're trying to do that as well, but reaching people through the arts, I think, is the best way that we can speak truth to power.
I think patriotism does have to do with the person, the place, and the purpose. I would like to think as a Black Haitian American composer that my person can do 2 things at once. It can speak to my Haitian ancestry, which does have to do with the founding of this country, and it also has to do with where I am right now as a composer. I think it can speak to the place. I mean, we can talk about our national capitals, but we can also talk about our homes, our communities. We're seeing that unfold right now in our major cities, and I think it could talk about our individual purpose. What do we want to do to the people that we love the most and are closest to us? What can we do collectively as a collection of artists, as a collection of American people?
Kenneth Morris Jr.'s words and Daniel Bernard Roumain's music will be performed by Matthew Detrick and the Apollo Chamber Players as part of the ensemble's American Story concert series. This next concert is Saturday night at 7:30 at the Match in Midtown. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that will do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. On Monday's show, a conversation about technology in the classroom, or rather the lack of it, and why more teachers are finding students have greater success when there are no screens at all and they actually have to pay attention, take notes, and synthesize information. I'm Craig Cohen. Have a great weekend, then join us Monday for that and other Houston Matters.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.